Istanbul is the starting point to one of the most beautiful train journeys in the world. Istanbul, golden gateway to the Orient. This city was once the center of the old world and still reflects 2.5 centuries of history. The Turkish metropolis once had sonorous names such as Constantinople and Byzanz. This gateway between Europe and Asia is not only the biggest city in Turkey, but also a melting pot of cultures. The Hagia Sofia. In 1453, one of the world's most extraordinary churches was transformed into a mosque by Sultan Mehmet and is now an impressive museum. The Yerebatan cistern once provided Constantinople with its water supply. And this mighty gate is the entrance to the splendid world of the Turkish sultans. Topkapi, the former center of power of the Osman Empire. The Grand Basare is a city within a city. Through a large gate there is a labyrinth of corridors that were built over many centuries. On the magnificent banks of the Bosporus, the Dolmabahce Palace shines out. It's the city's third largest sultan's palace. Istanbul's regal buildings are the most beautiful legacy of Osmanic architecture. Greek colony, Roman imperial city, and capital of the Ottoman Empire, Istanbul is full of colorful and dramatic history. For 1,000 years, Suez's ancient Theodosian wall fended off all those who attacked the city, from the Marmara Sea to the Golden Horn. Later, the Byzantine emperors had their palaces built in close proximity to the wall. A boat tour on the Bosphorus provides a good insight into this extraordinary city. This natural connection between the Black Sea and the Marmara Sea divides Europe from Asia and separates Occident from Orient. The Hagia Pasha train station lies on the Asian side of Istanbul, on the banks of the Bosphorus. Travelers arrive at the station by boat. The station is in the style of German neoclassicism and indicates the Sultan's former wives. A unique train is awaiting us by the platform. It is here that our adventure commences. A train journey from Istanbul to Damascus. The train slowly leaves Istanbul and travels into the night. Our destination is the capital of Syria, about 3,000 kilometers away. The train travels through the night, and next morning, we're traveling through a strange landscape. We've reached Cappadocia, a world of caves, canyons, and tough stone. Bosporus Station awaits its still sleepy guests. The embarkation point into this wonderful region is the small town of Orgut. We are in the middle of central Anatolia, in the heart of Turkey. Orgut is the gateway into this remarkable region. A gentle transition from our modern world into a miraculous land of a former age in which its humble inhabitants do their best to ignore the influx of modern tourism. Pasabagi, the Valley of Monks, is known for some of the largest and most beautiful fairy chimneys in Cappadocia, the sight of which was surely much appreciated by the first religious hermits who settled here, inside the tough cones, such as those of St. Simeon. Gorema is one of the oldest settlements in the area. Today, some of its inhabitants live in rock buildings and use rock chambers for storage. For the older village inhabitants, the way of life here has hardly changed, although tourism has inevitably made its mark. The entire Gorema Valley is famous for its church caves that many centuries ago were dug into the soft tuff by the early Christians who settled in this remote landscape. In the 4th century, a Greek Orthodox place of pilgrimage developed here under the influence of Byzantine monks. Since 1991, Gorema has been the starting point for the region's balloon safaris. At first, there were only a handful of balloons here, but today they're an increasingly popular attraction. Each journey is an adventure that touches the very soul. Uçhisar is famous for its castle mountain. This fortress is a complex of 2 huge rocks that were carved out to provide shelter. The steep slope below contains many tough houses that replaced the original cave dwellings that were located on the opposite side. The ascent to the fortress is a wonderful experience, and the view is breathtaking. Derinkuyu, meaning deep well, is the most famous of the former subterranean cities of Cappadocia. Within these caves and corridors beneath the earth's surface, early Christians survived the hostilities of their enemies. Avanos, the city on the Red River, originated from a settlement of a Seljuk nomad tribe. Since ancient times, the red clay of the river valley has been used in the production of pottery, in much demand by visiting tourists. Around 3/4 of the city's inhabitants earn their living from pottery, and some of their workshops are located in a number of caves. The train is our loyal companion. In Incezu Station, passengers board the train, which is heading for Syria. We grow accustomed to the slowness of the train and enjoy the passing landscape, the brief stops in various tiny stations, and the sight of passing trains. A journey on the historic Hijaz train. The railway lines from Ankara and Konya meet at Ulaksila Station. The landscape changes. Our journey travels through the Taurus Mountains and along the former Silk Road to as far as the Mediterranean. Slowly night falls. Another night on the train is about to begin. Next morning, the landscape is totally different. On both sides of the single-track railroad are a number of olive groves. And suddenly, without warning, it appears. One of the main attractions of this railroad, the Hara Dara Bridge. Construction of this section of the railroad was a major challenge to the skills of those who built it. The next leg of the train journey takes us along the scenic Mediterranean coast and more olive groves. We are gradually approaching Syria's northernmost city. Our welcome at Aleppo Station is quite overwhelming. Music, dance, and several onlookers are typical of Arabian hospitality. Due to the celebrations, there's no time to explore the station. The city calls us. Another adventure is about to begin. Mahaba, welcome to Aleppo. Syria, an ancient country of culture located between the Mediterranean and the desert. Its ancient desert metropolises, villages, impenetrable fortresses, and biblical harbour towns have witnessed the rich and fascinating history of bygone times. Aleppo in the north of Syria is the home of the merchants. Here was once an important trading centre in which caravanserais and trade played an important role, as did its warehouses and residential areas. The Omaya Den Mosque is said to have been as glamorous as its counterpart in Damascus. Recently, restoration work has begun. In 1169, it was destroyed by fire. Only its 45-metre-high minaret survived. Nur ad-Din ordered it to be rebuilt. Inscriptions at the entrance of the former hospital curse those who show it no respect. Today, an age-old tradition is to be found here. Whirling dervishes express mostly grief, pain, and longing. Up until the 19th century, the various khans also contained branches of European banks and trading companies, as well as the consuls of their associated countries. And Baits is the name of the noble dwellings and city palaces of the rich. Under Ottoman rule, the trading companies and their mainly Christian and Jewish agents were treated like diplomats, and so enjoyed many related benefits. Trade flows in the blood of those who live here. An artificial water ditch surrounds the citadel. The mightiest fortified Muslim building in Syria was built on a 50-metre-high rocky plateau. Aleppo is as ancient as eternity, like something from the 1001 Nights. Back at Aleppo Station, there's time for a little sightseeing. Its main hall indicates its former splendor, although today there's no longer a rail connection to Iraq. From here, once embarked the trains for the Baghdad line. A famous bell rings, and the train leaves Aleppo. Next, we travel inland. This is a truly amazing masterpiece of German engineering, and thousands of Turkish, Kurdish, and Armenian workers made it possible. Finally, we reach Hamas Station. The platform is empty. Its large station halls look rather empty too. Here, only a few people travel by train. Hama existed 7,000 years ago, a city of water wheels that are constantly noisy both day and night. The city is located on both sides of the river Orontes. Even today, the picturesque water wheels supply water to the nearby savannah and transform it into fertile farmland. The city relies upon its water supply. Canals, aqueducts, and more than a dozen water wheels have made their mark on the city and are its main landmarks. Unfortunately, a number of the Nurias were destroyed during a fundamentalist Muslim revolt. Where once a medieval citadel dominated the fortified mountain, there is now a park, and the views of the city are quite breathtaking. Following the high season of the Asuras, the original Hamat was conquered and destroyed. The city finally fell under new Babylonian, Achaemenidian, and finally, following the death of Alexander, Seleucidian rule. In Roman and Byzantine times, and also following the defeat of the Arabs, Hama was a prosperous city. a fact highlighted by its few remaining buildings. The interesting train journey continues on a sideline and into the desert. Slowly, dawn breaks. Every now and then we meet cargo trains that transport many diverse goods from the desert. We reach the end of the line in the middle of the night, a tiny desert station near Palmyra. Next morning, a camel caravan transports us from a luxury hotel to a world-famous palace. Set amid the desert savannah of Syria are the proud remains of a unique and mysterious metropolis, Palmyra. The legendary ancient city was built in this area due to the existence of an oasis, Tadmur. The shortest and fastest route from the Mediterranean to Mesopotamia and Persia travels directly past the Tadmur oasis. So it was only a question of time until an important trading post was founded here. Later, a flourishing cultural and economic center developed. A theatre, main street, and the remains of various temple columns date back to Roman times. This amphitheatre dates back to the 2nd century AD. Along with the market square, the agora, it was the centre of public life. At the beginning of the rule of Emperor Tiberius in the 1st century AD, this trading metropolis was given a new name, City of Palm Trees. The wealth of Palmyra's inhabitants is highlighted by their necropolises, such as those in the Valley of Graves. The tomb towers here have the typical architectural design of the old necropolises of Palmyra, but little is known of their cultural background and original construction. At the southeastern edge of the ruins is one of the main sites of the legendary desert town, the Temple of the Baal. Here, the city's inhabitants once worshipped the main deity of the oasis settlement. There is a marvelous fairy tale-like building 2 kilometers northwest of the oasis, situated on a steep rock above the ruins of the ancient city. It's the Arabian castle of Qalat ibn Man. After sunset, we're in the desert in a Bedouin tent for dinner, accompanied by traditional music. According to age-old tradition, food is served in abundance, and a storyteller takes us into the realm of Scheherazade. We board the train once more, and during the night it takes us through the desert back to the main line, and in the morning we reach Omaya Station. Buses transport us into the mountains to our next adventure while the train waits in the station. On our journey to the Mediterranean coast, close to the Lebanese border, we travel past some of the most beautiful and well-preserved Crusader castles in the Orient, the Crack De Chevalier. The Crack was of novel construction. A huge bastion was built in the center of the complex, a fortress within a fortress. Each of the Crusaders' buildings and fortresses have their own atmosphere and history, but this fortress became a unique symbol for an entire epoch. This fortress withstood no less than 11 sieges. Eventually, the courageous knights surrendered and were allowed to retreat to the coast unharmed. The huge fortress contained several corridors. Its upper floors could accommodate 1,500 soldiers and up to 400 knights and their horses. And this was essential because the fortress was a Christian stronghold set within a Muslim land. The knights could only depend upon themselves. These buildings are a magnificent sight, and it's easy to forget the terrible things that once happened here. The despair of war, greed, and religious fanaticism. The last section of our journey leads through a populated area. Finally, we reach a suburban station in Damascus. The railroad ends here in what is no more than a simple building. Here, passengers leave the train and say goodbye to the train's staff. But before we venture into this ancient town, we visit the Hijaz Railway Museum. The engines and carriages that once travelled along this line are exhibited here. Railroad nostalgia amid the desert sands. Damascus, capital of Syria and symbol of culture in the Near East, a paradise on earth. Almost 100 kilometres from the Mediterranean coast, the strategically located Damascus was once the capital of the Umayyad. An historic treasure trove of Oriental culture. Cannons, the busts of various presidents, as well as military vehicles, are displayed in the large courtyard of the Takayek Mosque, an ancient dervish monastery complex, built according to the design of Osman master architect Sinan. Damascus has always been much prized by Pharaoh and Babylonian ruler Nebuchadnezzar, and later Alexander the Great. Then came Persian, Roman and Islamic emperors, followed by the Crusaders and Mongols. The Khan Asad Pasha is often referred to as being the most beautiful caravanserai in the Near East. Its inner courtyard is covered by 8 mighty and partly painted cupolas, each of which is supported by 4 pillars. The small and modest entrances in the narrow lanes draw little attention. No one would suspect the magnificent splendor of the city palaces and civic houses that lie beyond them. Beit Nizam is situated in the former district of the Noblemen, south of Straight Street. In recent years, it's been restored and is now open to the public. Beit Anbar is a successful synthesis of Oriental and European, mainly Italian, design. The souk is an important part of every Islamic city, a market that originated in ancient times. Thousands of shops in numerous interconnected lanes form the commercial heart of Damascus. High walls surround the most important sacred building in Islam, the Omaya Den Mosque, built on the site of a Roman temple. In 708 AD, Caliph al-Walid ordered the construction of the huge complex and financed it with taxes collected in Syria. It turned Damascus into the most beautiful capital of the Near East. The train journey from Istanbul to Damascus is a journey through the centuries, slow, tranquil, and highly informative. An Arab slogan sums it up well. Allah has given us time, But he didn't say anything about the hustle and bustle that created all this.